I learned this from Brother Paul. I talked about Brother Paul was an old retired Navy SEAL in South Louisiana. He was at our first church, and Brother Paul was he was like the quintessential, just tough guy. I mean, this guy was. I told the story that his wife told us he would never talk about his past. He would never talk about the military. Apparently, he, was part of taking the lives of a lot of people at one time, and so. He was a trained killer. He was on missions to seek and destroy. He never talked about, but his wife, Charlene, told us one time about how they were dating, they were just married, and they were driving back in the 70s and 60s, and they were in a car. And, some guys, 3 or 4 guys in a car behind them kept pushing on his bumper and hitting the horn, hitting the lights and messing with him. Him and his wife coming home from like the dinner, and obviously these 4 guys picked the wrong guy to mess with, and all of a sudden she said at a light, she said he's at the light, he puts the car in park, doesn't say a word to him, gets out the car, walks to the back, these 4 guys get out, she said he lays them all out, all 4 guys, gets back in the car, doesn't say a word, just drives home. That's the kind of guy this guy was. Okay, so when I met him, he and I became friends, and we'd go to his house regularly and visit with him, but he got sick. I think he had cancer, and or he had a lung issue, and every time I talked to him, he'd say, Pastor Robbie, or Brother Robbie, call me. He'd say, Brother Robbie, I know God has forgiven me. He said, I know God forgives, but God can't forgive me. I know God forgives. I said, Brother Paul, if God can forgive me, forgive you. No, but you don't understand what I've done. That's what he'd say all the time. And this was a man who was faithful to church. He was generous with his giving. He read his Bible. He studied the scripture. He prayed. This was a man who was following the Lord. On his deathbed, Andrew, for 2 years, we were friends with him there before he died. On his deathbed, I'm visiting him in the hospital. And I go to pray for him, and he said, Brother Robbie, would you pray and make sure I make it to heaven?
Wow.
And I was like, what? He whispered that in my ear. And I said, Brother Paul, what are you talking about? I said, you're going to make it. He said, Brother Robbie, I know God forgives, but he can't forgive what I've done. Wow. And I looked at him and I said, Brother Paul, God forgives you. Do you believe that? He said, yes. I said, I said, God can forgive any sin. Yes. I said, it's time for you to forgive yourself. It's okay. And the next day he passed.
Wow.
And it just showed me that, yes, a lot of people know God can forgive, but they just can't forgive themselves. And so if that's you today, I would ask you, does God forgive all sin? Absolutely. Is there a sin God can't forget? No way. It's time to forgive yourself and move on.